Good afternoon. Welcome to the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee meeting. Please rise and join me in a salute to the flag.
Roll call of the members of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas?
Here.
Here. Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna?
Here.
Here. And Chairman Argenzio?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First item on tonight's agenda is Council Order 25114, an ordinance further amending wage step policies in the City of Revere.
Councilors, any comment? Oh, Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So one thing I was in favor of in a huge way was Section 3, and it states, and provisions for controlling other waste on construction sites such as demolition debris, litter, and sanitary waste. So many times we see companies leave behind a mess in the areas that they worked, and I think inserting something like this into the stormwater management ordinance would be great. Thank you.
We're going to start with Council Order 25222, an ordinance further amending Title 13 of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere relative to stormwater management.
So I believe this is just a housekeeping item. I spoke with the engineers earlier this last week, and it's just to comply with DEP regulations. So any comment? No. Okay, all set? Madam Clerk, a roll call, please, in favor.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council to adopt the ordinance as submitted? Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has received a favorable recommendation for adoption. Next item is Council Order 25232, an ordinance repealing Section 9.12.030, posting political signs of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere.
Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anthony Cogliandro, Ward 3 City Councilor. As we've stated before, this is, at this point, just simple house cleaning. The ordinance was created in 2012, later proven in 2014 by the United States Supreme Court to be deemed unconstitutional. We have an obligation to the residents to make sure that our ordinances are abiding by the law. So I hope this gets supported this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else wishing to speak? Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Favorable recommendation.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council to adopt the ordinance as proposed? Councilor Guarino Sawaya? I'm sorry. Yep. Councilor
Yes.
Guarino. Yes. Councilor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has received a favorable recommendation for adoption. Next up is Council Order 25-269, motion presented by Councilor Argenzio, that the City Council approve the following special legislation, an act permitting the City of Revere to establish penalties and liens for rooming house and certificates of fitness ordinance violations.
Thank you, Madam. Just briefly, I was the maker of this motion. I know the ISD gets complaints about rooming houses, and they have to go through a very tedious process to try to enforce it. Frustrating for them, frustrating for the residents that complain. This is just one way of making it a little bit easier for them to enforce this in a speedier manner. It doesn't answer all our questions about rooming houses, but it'll go a long way in helping ISD, I believe, just do things in a quicker manner, and I think the residents and the city council and everyone would appreciate that. Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Greeno Swire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very happy to support this motion because in Ward 5, there are more and more rooming houses operating in ways that do not belong in our residential neighborhoods. These are properties that repeatedly ignore our rules, create instability, and disrupt the quality of life for the families who live around them. They take up parking spots, and they drive the neighborhood residents crazy. The legislation finally gives this city of Revere the enforcement tool we need, the ability to issue citations, require accountability through a fair appeals process, and ensure fines are collected when violations continue. It closes the gap that has allowed problem operators to avoid responsibility while our neighborhoods pay the price. This is about protecting the tenants and the residents and homeowners, as well as the tenants of the rooming houses, and equally protecting the surrounding neighborhood from unsafe and irresponsible practices. Our residents and neighbors deserve safe housing and peace of mind on our street, and I really commend you for putting in this motion. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll for a favorable recommendation.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to approve the special act permitting the City of Revere to establish penalties and liens for rooming house and certificates of fitness ordinance violations? Councilor Greeno Sawaya.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hass.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Argenzio.
Yes.
Yes, the special act has received a favorable recommendation. And lastly on the agenda, Council Order 25-114, an ordinance further amending wage theft policies in the City of Revere.
Any councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the members, Juan Pablo Jaramillo, 70 Low Street. I'm here to speak in support of this wage theft ordinance, which we've filed and we've been debating for a few months now. You know what? Before I came here, I didn't know what I was going to say, and I picked up Lucas on my way here, and we stopped by the park, and they have a little library. And he looked at the little library, and I saw this book, which is a book about the 2002 janitor's strike. So it was really interesting, and I'll read you one excerpt from the book that spoke to me in relation to the wage theft ordinance. It said, "One night, Mama said to Carlitos, 'Do you know, Carlitos, I can't take care of you or your grandmother the way that I want to.' She sat me on her lap to explain. She said, 'Even though I work full-time as a janitor, I also have to clean houses and wash clothes on the weekend. That means that we don't have enough time together. And I can't afford to buy the medicine that your grandma needs to help her sore bones feel better.' I looked at my grandmother. I looked at my mother. I looked at the family photos on the wall. My favorite was the one of her dressed in the wedding gown with my father. When Dad was still alive, we all lived in Mexico, the country I was born." And I read you that excerpt because when we talk about wage theft, we are talking about the people, usually folks who are lowest paid, but sometimes they're well paid, but in really harsh or dangerous working conditions. This ordinance will create an additional layer of accountability for anyone that wants to do business in our city to ensure that they know that our city is looking out for them. I said this earlier in a meeting about this with some folks. With such uncertainty at the state and the national level, municipal government is the safest form of government for working class people. They know you all, they know me, They can come in and they can feel government, taste government, touch government. And this ordinance makes it more accessible for them and for us, as a city that is committed to working class values, to stand up for them when an employer is not just paying them little, but sometimes Carlito's mom doesn't get paid at all. And that's why I stand here in support of this. You'll hear the spiel exactly again later on at the council meeting, should this come out of committee, but I hope that you'll take this on and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Jeff Cohen, 12 Hancock Street, Salem, Massachusetts. I'm Salem's Ward 5 City Councilor. I wrote the Salem ordinance. In 2018, when I wasn't a councilor, Lynn passed what was at the time the strongest ordinance in Massachusetts. There's only 12 communities that have ordinances, and many of them are very weak. I took that ordinance to the Salem councilors that I knew. I used to run the Human Rights Coalition, and not one of them was willing to put it in front of the council. So I was determined to get on the council to pass that and a whole bunch of other ordinances I've written and passed. I started this process at that year myself and Councilor McLean, who helped me a little bit on the ordinance. We met with over 100 entities. Salem City, Salem's Chamber of Commerce, the Enterprise Center, lots of business groups, and of course, lots of people from immigrant communities, unions, other labor groups. So we have a housing crisis, a climate crisis, a wage theft crisis. Wage theft isn't just, as the counselor said, not being paid overtime. It's misclassification. It can be many times physical sexual assault and human trafficking. You've seen that with Stashes Pizza in Dorchester, where the owner got 8 years for those crimes. All industries, especially service and trades, it's prevalent. As perhaps a majority of those who are victimized are from immigrant communities and people who are just too afraid to come forward, rarely is wage theft found by people reporting, employees, and that's too bad. And in the ordinance, the ordinance that's in front of you looks surprisingly like the one that I wrote. We do have in the ordinance anonymous reporting, and that is for the few incidents where someone is brave enough to come forward. I met regularly with the Department of Labor representative and the Attorney General's office. They actually did webinars on our webpage after the ordinance passed. And the Department of Labor, which manages a lot of overtime, said to me, and when I presented him to people in the city staff, all restaurants commit wage theft. We only go after the ones who do it intentionally. Why do businesses commit wage theft? I'm looking around, but the reason is because they can. And I'm speaking now how this benefits the businesses in Revere. If you're a business and you play by the rules, you are at a disadvantage 100% of the time to the businesses and contractors that don't. 100% of the time. If you're a plumbing company and you are always outbid by another plumbing company, guess what? It's because of wage theft. So, one of the things that's really important is that this ordinance is really simple in this respect. If someone does come forward and they go to the solicitor or whoever you deem the person that they would report to anonymously, they can refer that to the Attorney General, the Department of Labor, or even if it's physical sexual assault, the District Attorney's Office. And I've worked with all three of those departments to make sure that they're in tune with the ordinance. But the ordinance is really based on this. If a company has a contract, like we have waste management. If before the ordinance, if waste management didn't pay the prevailing wage or overtime, the employee could go to the Attorney General. Maybe they would get fined. In Salem, we can end the contract immediately. If a company or a nonprofit gets a tax benefit and we find that there's wage theft, we can end the tax benefit. More than any other community, more than Lynn even, we can affect licensing. This is important. A restaurant that doesn't, pay workers overtime, doesn't give them time off, breaks, whatever, we can take that away. We can take a license away from a plumbing company that does the same thing. In the ordinance, it's really important. It also pertains to subcontractors. Almost every single wage theft on a big job, the union shops, so let's say there's a big development. We've had several of these in Salem. You probably have 20, 25 subs on the job. Never is there wage theft in the union sub jobs. It's always the non-union shops. Since the ordinance was passed in the fall of 2023, several times, mostly union people, and understand for those who don't understand how important unions are, unions do not just fight for their employees, they fight for the employees on the site that are not unionized. And in multiple instances, they came to me because they trust me. I got with our city solicitor. We laid down what we expected them to do. Most important, the reason you haven't read about these publicly, wanted to make sure the workers were compensated, they got paid what they needed to get paid, they were classified correctly, which is a big deal, misclassification. And then myself, I laid out for these developers a checklist of what they needed to do to submit to us so that we as a city did not feel like they were going to continue to commit wage theft. So I encourage you to consider this and be the second community in Massachusetts to have the strongest wage theft ordinance. It's important. The workers deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else wishing to speak? Ms. Correa, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Claudia Correa, Caruso Street, and I'm here to speak on behalf of this, filing this ordinance and encourage you to pass it. Obviously, we look forward to working with our other municipalities to learn more about how they are enforcing this, and with our solicitor office. It is really important that we address this issue, but again, we definitely have to take a closer look as to how we enforce this, but I'm very happy to stand behind this filing and obviously making sure that our workers across the city of Revere are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, please.
Hi, my name is Josh Colon. I'm a business rep with the Carpenters Union. I represent thousands of carpenters in the Boston area, and I speak in favor of this wage theft ordinance. Employers who commit wage theft not only evade payroll taxes and insurance premiums in Massachusetts, misclassification in the construction industry alone led to a shortfall of up to $40 million in 2019. Honest businesses that follow labor laws are undercut by those engaging in wage theft, especially in industries like construction, hospitality, and janitorial services. This creates an unfair market and discourages ethical business practices. With only 14 of Massachusetts workers belonging to labor unions, many lack the support needed to navigate wage theft claims, and this weakens collective bargaining and leaves workers vulnerable to exploitation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councilors? Oh, sure. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was happy to hear the counselor say that this would be the second strongest wage theft ordinance in the state. I'm just curious. I know there were 12 other ones in the state, you said, Counselor? And, yeah, if you don't mind. And in your mind, what separates this from the ones that you consider to be weaker?
So ours, which is mirrored by yours, or the one in front of you, is the strongest. Lynn is very close. The things that Lynn has that is not the same as ours is they do not affect licensing in the city. They also have a commission, a wage theft commission, and we decided not to do that because they only meet once a month or once every 2 months. And I mean, it's hard enough to get someone who's been victimized to come to the solicitor's office and anonymously report. Can you imagine going to a public meeting? Okay? Most of the other ones, including Amherst and other places, our purchasing agent now was in Amherst as their purchasing agent when they passed theirs. And most of the other ordinances are really just dealing with the nature of a contract with the city. And in my opinion, because I've read all of them, they don't actually enable the city to get out of the contract. So as every contract that you have, that we have, will have the, you know, the corporate name of the company, the EIN number, you know, all their corporate information in for our contracts and an application for a tax benefit like a TIF, it actually has a line that asks the company, have you been debarred, which is in violation of wage theft in the last 3 years? Of course, everyone's going to say no. But it's another layer, which doesn't exist in these other communities, where if we find that someone has done that since, because we don't actually deal with anything unless it's been adjudicated, if that makes sense. So if we find out it's been done, now that's a leverage that we can get out of the contract of the TIF.
Great, thank you. Happy to support. Thank you to the councilors, Yaramilo and Silvestri, for submitting this. Anything that protects workers, protects residents, and in turn protects the city, definitely in support of. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. For me, this is just a matter of making sure that individuals are treated with respect and dignity and fairness. So I highly support this. Thank you.
We all set?
I'm going to be the wet blanket, but not because of I'm for or against it. I just have questions about its applicability, its enforcement, and how it's used. I think the the current counselor from Salem, I think he articulated well the value of such an ordinance. But I see this as a supplement to what's already on the books. We already have a state wage law. We already have the Attorney General's office that does enforcement for people who are not paid fairly. So all we'd be doing is adding another layer of bureaucracy, which has some redundancies. I don't have a problem with that if you guys don't have a problem with that. I'm just pointing out that. And there are other things within this law that I have concerns about. Well, first of all, the ones I know of, he mentioned there are several communities, the ones I know of that surround us, Boston, Somerville, Lowell, Salem, and Lynn. Boston, Somerville, and Lynn all have a wage theft advocacy committee. I don't know the benefit of that or the disadvantage of that. That's not been proposed in our particular piece of legislation. And I will concede that I didn't even look at this until today, for number one. Number two, Boston even created a wage theft division for the city of Boston. So I imagine we're not going to compare with Boston, but they probably have a lot more going on in terms of projects where things like oversight on things such as this are more important. It puts a little burden on the city to be the go-between between the employer and the employee. Again, it depends on the demand. From what I understand in Salem, there hasn't been a huge demand for it, which would then beg the question, why do we need it? But that's for you guys to decide, not for me to decide. I have concerns about some of the requirements. For example, on a construction job, every employee would be required to sign in when they come in and when they leave, and that list would be a public record. Now, generally, on the wage statements, it's a public record who works for the city anyway, but now I can find out, for example, I'm going to throw out a crazy example. I'm a husband after my wife. I don't like her. I want to kill her. She's working on a construction job. Now I can find out on a public record when she signs in and when she signs out. So that, to me, was a private concern that I raised. It may not even be an issue at all. I have no idea. Another provision of this law mandates that I may be a mediator on a TIF agreement if the project that's going up, that got the TIF, there's a problem with an employee who's working on that project. I wouldn't want me to be the mediator because if the mayor or the council are in favor of the project, they might think I'm being biased if for some reason maybe I agree or convince them that maybe you should do what the employer wants. And I also think about due process because I'm a lawyer. I'm not saying it's not there, but everything in here that we do, that we say, okay, you don't get your license. we're going to terminate your contract. Subjects us to a challenge by the person who gets that. And that's another level of fighting that I'm not necessarily prepared for wanting to get into, but I'm okay with it if you guys are okay with it. Right now, the legislature, but though I couldn't nail down the dates, the state legislature, there's a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate, both considering wage theft, strengthening to the Attorney General's office so that they can file claims on behalf of an employee who has his head wages stolen or hasn't been treated properly. So there are a lot of other pieces in place to this puzzle. I appreciate that the other towns passed this. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. So those are the legal considerations that I raised, not opposed to it. Just as written, as drafted right now, I don't know if maybe we could have done a better job at going through it to weed out some of the, see what fits best for Revere and what doesn't. That's all.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you.
For me?
Yes.
Okay.
So I believe that the counselor stated that these measures would be enforced or after adjudication. So you're saying that when you were talking about due process and that could open the door for these things to be challenged,
Sure.
he did mention that something would happen after adjudication.
Sure,
I'm
so if you,
I'm
but if an
confused.
adjudication occurred to you and the negative for your other business 4 years ago, you had an issue with an employee. You come now to Revere and go, I want a liquor license to open this restaurant. We go, no, you can't, because 4 years ago, we've got this adjudication that ruled against you. That person says, well, here's what happened that day. I'm still entitled to it. Now, the License Commission can still grant it, but that's the kind of challenge I'm talking about, depending on the position that the city takes. What information will we have? How will this actually unfold? And what will be the outcome of it? Again, I don't have a problem with it. Right now, any contract that the city enters into to build anything that we're paying for, we can get out of. In fact, most of our contracts have a no-fault exit from it.
But the city would be relying upon that adjudication as to what action they're taking, so the challenge wouldn't, I don't see, if we're relying on
Well,
that adjudication,
But
what would be the,
nothing. You could totally rely on it if you want, but I'm saying the person could challenge. The person could say, yeah, that happened, but that wasn't me. That wasn't my business at the time. I was associated with it. I don't know. I'm making up possible scenarios where a person could come out and argue with this. That's all.
but this does align with the state law, as you mentioned, Chapter 149.
Some of it, yeah, not all of it, yeah. It enforces, the state law says you got to pay a person the hourly rate they're entitled to, and you got to pay them overtime. So we're saying, yeah, we want you to do that. They should already be doing that. And if they don't do that, that individual, there's nothing that prohibits that individual who's been taken advantage of from going forward either to the AG's office or getting their own personal cause of action. So I'm just pointing it out that what this does is put us in between a scenario that already exists. There's already a mechanism, statutory mechanism, to deal with a lot of this stuff. And I don't know what the liability is on the city. I reached out to Salem Solicitor today. I have not yet spoken with her. If, for example, the requirement of this statute, of this ordinance, is that if a person comes to us and makes a report, then we have 30 days to get it to the AG's office. Well, what if we don't do that in 30 days? Is there anything that could happen to the city? Is there any statute of limitations I'm not aware of that becomes impacted by that? I just don't know the answers to that. I'm not saying that there is. I just wanted the legislative body here to be aware of some of the potential challenges. Preferably, I would have preferred to sit down with the committee, gone through this paragraph by paragraph, and drafted the best ordinance for the city of Revere. But I feel like there's a rush to get it passed, and I understand that. By just raising some concerns that I see with a review of it today, plus what the state is looking to do, so that, like I said, there's redundancies here. And I am not an advocate of just piling on, but that's my personal feeling. You want to pass the ordinance, we may never get anybody that comes forward. It's likely possible at Salem, I understand, only got 1 or 2, and since that thing's been passed. So I'm not looking to kill it, I'm taking the language literally and seeing how does this apply if a person does come forward. What are we on the hook for? What are we required to do? And what happens if we don't do it? I don't know the answers to all of those questions. I know to some, but not all of them. That's all.
Any further questions for the city solicitor? Okay, thank you. Would you care to just briefly? We don't want to
I'll
get
be brief.
into it.
I respectfully believe that the solicitor misstated some of what's in the ordinance. For example, as I stated in the beginning of my presentation, if there is a violation that is state, federal law, the city would refer that case to the Attorney General of the Department of Labor. The city is not enforcing that wage theft. It came up when we were deliberating that people wanted to know what we would do about retribution. And because the Attorney General and the Department of Labor would be the punishing or the enforcing party, they would be responsible for dealing with retribution, not the city of Salem. The declaration on the contract and the TIF agreements does not make someone ineligible to do business in Salem. But if they are caught doing wage theft while they're doing business in Salem, that's different. And I think you want to change as our mayor said, we want to change the behavior. There are contractors who don't do business in Salem anymore. I want to just address one thing that is not particular to this ordinance, but the solicitor brought up sign-in sheets. There are certain requirements when you have a prevailing wage job that you have to have sign-up sheets. You have to pay all the employees, whether they're union or not union, the same wage. The reason for a sign-up sheet, to be really simple about this, think about it. 20 people go on the site to work. The bunch of us go for a tour. A crane falls. You want to know who's on the work site. It's as simple as that. I'm going to tell you something. Someone brought me, I said, before I go forward with this complaint, bring me some evidence. A prevailing wage job, a mason, was brave enough to submit to me a pay stub, 48 hours at $21.95 an hour. No overtime. The prevailing wage, $62. In 6 weeks, 8 workers were denied $150,000. Most workers don't know when they're offered cash, when they're, that they may be suffering because they don't get benefits, and most workers on a job don't know what the prevailing wage is. This ordinance is really more than anything to discourage bad behavior and mistreatment of workers. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we've discussed this quite enough. Do we feel comfortable taking a vote? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll in favor.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council to adopt the ordinance as proposed? Counselor Guarino-Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hass?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has received a favorable recommendation and will be forwarded to the full City Council this evening. No further business.
Thank you. No further business. Meeting adjourned.